The lost city of Antarctica, massive ancient civilization, lies frozen under ice. Antarctica is hiding a huge city underneath more than a mile of ice, according to incredible claims. They talk about the Pre-Adamites map, and they say, look, it's got the subglacial topography of Antarctica before they were supposed to know what it was.
Under the ice, about 2 miles under the ice, there's a huge industrial complex. Buildings all over the place. It looked very industrial. Smoke coming out of them, steam coming out of them, very human looking. And there were giant submarines under the ice that had popped up that were the size of, I guess, the giant ships that carried the big shipping containers. It was huge, and I saw these submarines being unloaded with giant cranes that were reaching in the top that rolled back and pulling out these giant containers.
You got these triangular craft down there, all kinds of excavations going on.
You know, there's people down there that went missing for 2 weeks back in the 90s, and now these people are missing and haven't been found yet. Maybe there's a correlation there.
The U.S. government said it will seek to block the airing of a video found by Navy rescuers in Antarctica that purportedly reveals that a massive archaeological dig is underway 2 miles beneath the ice.
So while the Allied powers invaded Europe, the Nazis basically took a lot of their advanced R&D, research and development, and brought it down to Antarctica. They already had a strong presence in South America here, so they started developing bases in Antarctica. Because what's amazing is that under the ice, there's actually caverns, tunnel systems.
I, for example, have been to Antarctica. I have seen the Nazi base. Where's that in history books? How does that work? I was there. They brought me in because of the bioluminescence. They wanted to know how the light was worked down there. It's a cavern below the hot springs, probably a mile high with clouds, weather, and there's a Nazi base. Yes, it'll hold 19 submarines. Oh, what's that over there? That is a 14th century Viking base. They've been there in Antarctica for many centuries.
We went over this sort of a bay of warmer water that was lapping the shores next to this industrial area I saw. And instead of flying in the direction I thought we were, we went straight down the way that these submarines came from. And we ended up entering this large rift system that is the West Antarctic Rift system or something like that. And we went very deep underground and traveled through this rift system that had been tunneled out by some ancient alien race that allowed you to travel from Antarctica all the way up to Central America and the southern and southwestern parts of the United States, all completely underwater.
We were verbally told we couldn't say anything, to forget about it, but I never signed the non-disclosure of anything that I did while I was serving in the Navy.
In Antarctica.
In Antarctica, yes.
Giants that have been in hibernation in stasis chambers for thousands of years are awakening and are being sought out by elite military forces, according to several independent sources.
A team led by geologist Scott Amundsen of Wyoming State University came across the rubble of a stone building roughly the size of Rome's ancient amphitheater. The beings that have been found under the ice are mummified. This is actually a real mummy. Not one of the Pre-Adamites, obviously, but this is kind of what you're going to see that they look like.
They're removing the bodies of what's called the Pre-Adamites. Pre-Adamites were the species built before us, genetically engineered before us. They have a much longer skull. Sometimes the skull goes straight back, kind of like Nipitiri, and other times it flattens out, kind of widens to the back, much like the Gray's type of skull. And they're taller, and they have a funny body because they have a longer or more vertebrae in their backbone, so it's kind of long. And then they got the little pot belly. The way Akhenaten is portrayed in the images from Egypt, they have those type of bodies. So that's what they're finding down there. These beings, there's also giants down there and dinosaurs that were flash frozen. The mastodons, I understand, are 3 times the size of an elephant, and they were flash frozen. And from what I understand, they're removing these bodies. They've been down there for over 12 years, filming, removing, very sophisticated technology. And they're eventually going to have some sort of tour down there, I guess you can take, and walk through these ruins. And they know that there's the tropical jungle down there, I believe 65,000 square miles. That was all flash frozen. So Antarctica was at one time a tropical location, and it was flash frozen very quickly. Plato puts it right at about the same time, 9,000 years before him. And he said it all happened in one day. So if the explosion occurred within a day, Earth would have sort of corrected itself and started trying to heal. But anything along the periphery where the atmosphere was completely ripped off would have been flash frozen.
Subglacial lakes. So these blue areas are beneath the surface of the ice. The surface is all white and you just see ice. But if you go in there, they know that there are areas where there are lakes, meaning this warm water. 2 chunks of Antarctica. There's a big chunk on the right, a littler chunk on the left. We only knew that since 1958. Here we have from 1754 the Buachi map from the Vatican showing Antarctica with a channel in between the middle, right where those subglacial lakes are.
2 of the huge pyramid structures were found approximately 10 miles inland. The third one, not from the coastline, is clearly visible from the ocean. The team are currently planning an expedition to reach one of the pyramids to find out if it is a natural or artificial structure.
So the first thing to be aware of when it comes to Antarctica and how it's involved in ancient history is understanding that humans have been here for a little bit longer than just a couple thousand years. And there has been advanced civilizations that have existed before us. Now, their advancements have been a little different. They're not quite as mechanically advanced as we might be now, but they understood a lot more of the esoteric sciences. And there's a lot of evidence, amazing amounts of evidence, to show that there has been advanced civilizations before this one. And how that coincides with Antarctica is there's a lot of research showing that one of these advanced civilizations could very well be buried under the ice in Antarctica. Now, some people think that it's Atlantis. Antarctica, you know, a lot of stuff under the ice.
White House, if you recall, back in the 1990s, making that statement publicly about the recovery of a meteor in Antarctica that had come from Mars that apparently contained fossilized microbial life. So there's just all sorts of high strangeness going on with that continent, and I you know, am very serious about the possibility that whatever it is that's going on down there, it may have a technological nature, and it may be that they have found evidence, trace evidence of some sort, of a lost ancient technology, of something that may have originated off-planet of a technological nature.
The amount of information of ancient civilizations and ancient energy forces in Antarctica were enough to drag the most powerful people in the world down there, or beckon them, from the Pope to Kirill, the Russian Patriarch, Vladimir Putin. We've got, obviously, John Kerry went down there. Obama did go down there, although it wasn't announced. Pope, what's his name, has been down there, the current one. And I'm sorry, but that's how I refer to it. So something's going down there. The energy forces that you are now seeing experienced in the waveforms coming out of Antarctica are absolutely astonishing. It's like if somebody turned on a transmitter that's been dormant for all these years. I've talked to people that have been beneath the ice. They talk about a tropical paradise.
Here's this huge hole in the ice, almost like a cave entrance, but it was large enough that you could fly a C-130 into it, the hole that went down. We were told not to fly that area, but we continued our mission and picked up our medical emergency and turned around and had to come back to South Pole to refuel. And when we got close to that air sampling again, we were told, deviate this way so many miles and then turn back on course. It makes you wonder, is like, okay, so what is our government and other governments doing that we don't know about that's going on down there?
I received an email from a retired 60-year-old U.S. Navy petty officer, first-class flight engineer. He asked me to only call him Brian to protect him because he works in an aerospace company today. He entered the U.S. Navy in 1977,
and retired 20 years later in 1997 from the military. He and his C-130 crew encountered high strangeness in Antarctica from 1995 to 1996. Several times, they all saw rapidly moving silver discs over the trans-Antarctic mountains. Brian and his crew also saw a huge hole in the ice, only about 5 to 10 miles from the geographic South Pole, that was supposed to be a no-fly zone. But during an emergency medevac crisis, to speed up their trip, they flew across that no-fly zone and saw apparently what they were not supposed to see. Later at camp near Marie Birdland, some dozen scientists disappeared for 2 weeks. When they reappeared, Brian's flight crew was assigned to pick them up, and all were silent and appeared scared. Brian and his C-130 crew received orders to not talk about the silver discs, or the huge ice hole, or the missing scared scientists. Repeatedly, the crew was sternly told that they did not see what they kept seeing.
We've had Patriarch Kirill III, the Patriarch of Moscow, go to Antarctica. The story was he went down there to bless, the Orthodox chapel for the Russians there. Well, any bishop can do this, It's sending the Patriarch is like sending the Pope, to Antarctica. And then that was followed up by the visit of John Kerry, the Secretary of State, and Buzz Aldrin. Yeah. Well, this is exactly my thinking. Something obviously is going on in Antarctica. I mean, with Kirill III and Secretary Kerry and Buzz Aldrin going down there within a matter of weeks of each other. Clearly something is going on down there. And, the way I look at it is if you're going to have a Black Projects world, the perfect place to park some of that stuff is going to be in Antarctica, because access to that continent is very limited, it's very restricted. The nations that have a presence there guard whatever it is they're doing there very, very closely. Something of a technological, defense-related nature is going on that continent.
This has been the Confidential Report. For even more stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel today. And please show your support by clicking the like button on this video. For even more stories and news you deserve to know the truth about, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching the Confidential Report.